So today I'm going to do some guttering. I've already prepared the guttering for the dormers, and so this is for the full length run below the dormers on the main fascia there. So it's going to be just over 20 feet, 21 feet, something like that. So I'm going to have to connect two pieces of guttering together, overlap them to make the full length. A few things you need. I'm just using this aluminium guttering. I've chosen the brown. I wish there was a darker one than this one. It's a bit too chocolatey for me. I'd like it to match the roof, but such is life. So you've got the actual gutter runs themselves. This one's 10 feet. They come in different lengths. There is this part which you basically cut around, you draw around and slot that into the hole, and then the downspout will get connected onto this, so such as like this, for instance, depending on what kind of downspout you have. So you either have these, or the straight downspout comes onto that, and connect these up further down, the little elbows, and then the downspout is also connected by these little brackets as well. On the guttering itself, it goes up with little brackets like this. They basically hook in underneath and then over top of there. These ones come with the screws already in, so you can just, once you've got them all connected, you'll screw it into the fascia. And these are supposed to go no further apart than 3 feet, 36 inches apart from each one, or less. If you're living in high snow zones, best to put them closer together. The other thing is these end caps. They come with left and right end caps, and obviously in the same color as your gutters. You're going to need some silicone and these screws. Instead of using rivets, a lot of people around here just use these screws. They have color-coded heads so that it matches the gutters, and they're just metal screws. That'll make life easier as well if I have to take this down. So when we move the house, maybe I'll have to pull the gutters off to move it, but that hopefully isn't going to happen for a while. So no problem putting these up right now. You also need some tin snips. I can't remember whether these are left or right. I think they're the green ones are right, and they just cut in a right angle, so it's way easier to actually cut around. I'll show you that later. And that's just to cut the holes and also to trim down to the right length that you want. So first thing to do before you install these gutters, though, is make sure the house is level, first of all, because you're going to go up there and slope the gutter down. Around 1 or 2 inches every 40 feet. So let's say from front to back of the house is going to be about an inch, 3/4 of an inch difference between front and back, something like that. So you want to make sure the house is level first, and then set that slope. Now the plan here for me, I don't have all the parts right now to finish this off, but I'm just getting started. I'm going to run the gutters from the front of the house down both sides to the back. The dormers will be along the top, and then a downspout which will feed the gutter below, and then that will carry on to the very back of the house. And then I propose to kink them in to the back of the house and eventually feed water catchment down there. So we're in a pretty heavy rain zone here, so based on the calculations of surface area and average rainfall in the wettest months, we could collect just over 2,000 gallons of water in the wettest month here. So that's a hell of a lot of water. So you need a pretty big container for that one. So that's the long-term plan, but initially we just want to get some gutters up and feed the water out to the back, and just ditch it off into the wetland at the back there. So let's get started. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do here is just attach one of the end caps to show you how that goes down. And I'm sure there's a number of different ways to do this, but this is the way I'm doing it. So this is going to be for the right hand side of the house, so this will be the front of the house. So this is going to slot onto here. Now, the way these guys are set up, if you can see, there's like a little bit of an indent on the outside edge. So you can slot this onto the very end and then screw through, and so it comes out here. So the screw doesn't actually pass through into the bottom of the gutter or into the side of the gutter. It just pinches here, and you'll see what I'm doing. So I'm going to use some silicone first, grab some silicone and add that to the end piece here. And these come in different widths too. So this is a 4-inch gutter, and they come in 5s, and maybe even wider too, industrial sizes for big roofs and a lot of rain. With the screw, it actually comes out on the outside. So this is attached. It's pinched it, but it hasn't gone through into the gutter to make a hole, which will reduce any leaks there. So I'm just going to add the rest of these. Okay, so that's all done. I've got 2 on each side, and then wet the finger and wipe the silicone. Okay, so just smoothed out the silicone inside of there, and we'll let that dry before we pop it up. So now what I'm going to need to do is measure the length of the house and figure out what other piece I need, how long a piece I need for the next piece down. Obviously, based on the direction of the water flow, you want the next piece to be underneath the first piece so that the water drops down onto it rather than trying to run underneath it. So you need roughly about 5 inches or so overlap, and then we'll get to that later. But yes, 5-inch overlap, measure it out, and then what we're going to do is put the hole in the far end for this piece to slot into. So let's do that. Okay, so we've got enough to make this happen here. I need this to be with a 5-inch overlap here. This is needing to be 41 inches. So let's measure that out. In fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the straight edge here as the end, so it's going to be easier to cap, and then we can just measure from this end up to 41. Just going to use this little piece of wood here to mark that on. We'll get the straight shears. The bottom piece is the bit that I trim, so let's trim that off. Overlap it, snap it in. Then I just need to put the other end piece on here, and then we'll cut out the hole for the plug. Okay, so I've flipped it over, and I'm going to trace around this to mark out where I'm going to put the hole. So just drill a few holes to start off, and then I'll use the clippers. And depending on how accurate I've been, will depend on how easy this slots in. Perfect. Okay, so then what I do, I'm gonna flip this whole thing over. I'm gonna fire some silicone around here. And then we want to smooth it all out so we have a nice flow for the water. So same deal as we did the other end. Okay, so this is one long gutter ready to go up. I'm just going to clean up the silicone, and then I need to look for some assistant to get it up. All right, well, happy days. The gutters are now up. The only thing I have left to do is the downspout from here down to here, and at the very end as well here. So I have the downspouts, but I don't have the little kick out that basically there's a little bendy bit that kicks out, so it's going to kick it out onto the roof, and I don't have those, so it's not going to rain overnight, hopefully, apparently. So we're good to just leave it as is, and then tomorrow I'll get the downspouts up and make sure the water is directed away from the house. And yeah, we're all set for winter now. Happy days. Okay, so the house is with the overhangs is probably about just under 2 foot longer than 20 foot. So to buy 2 pieces of 10 foot is still a little shy, but if I have any advice for you doing your guttering is buy the longest piece possible that you can transport, because the joining the seams is a little bit of a pain, and it does create the possibility of some kind of human error where you join them. It needs to kind of be snug so it continues along the same plane. If you don't connect it properly, it might lift back up, and then you'll get some backwash or whatever. So yeah, the less joins you have to do, the better. But we got this up. My friend popped over and helped, and super grateful to Glenn for that. And we've got these guys now up on the dormer as well as down bottom, and they went up pretty quick. Just had to make sure there was enough of a slope on it. Tested it out with some water. Water runs out great, and yeah, pretty happy.